Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Paarl Business Lab. Those of you joining for the first time, it's just a networking session for Paarl businesses and entrepreneurs. I mean, I don't have to tell you about how the businesses in Paarl are growing and how many businesses are being established because of entrepreneurs. A lot of them are starting businesses for reasons of during lockdown losing their jobs, or some of them just following their dreams and passions, so they're doing their own thing. So over the past 8-9 months, we've had a few business chambers. I think this is probably number 11 or number 12, and we've had some exciting guests on our show. I mean, we've chatted to a few entrepreneurs in Paarl and Wellington, and some really valuable stories. I of course love chatting to people because they all have lessons, and I thought how better if I don't chat to them alone, then people can come and chat with. But we've also embarked on the new technology space where we're doing it live on Facebook. So welcome to all the people in the online stratosphere, let me call it that. We've seen a lot of engagement from an online perspective, but it's also understandable people are staying at home because for COVID-related issues, and I'm sure the millennials rather want to watch it on their phone at home than come out in the cold. So tonight I must say I'm always fortunate to have guests or entrepreneurs here. They're all very, very busy, and I think I'm very lucky that they give me some of their time. And tonight, one of our guests here is probably a very important guest from a Workshop17 perspective. His name is Paarl Keursten. He's the co-founder and CEO, and I wanted to chat to him a bit about Workshop17. I also wanted to chat to him about just the co-working space in South Africa, what's happening from a COVID perspective and lockdown, how has there been an impact on his business. But those of you that don't know Workshop17, last year, they won a global award for the global startup or the global co-working space in the world, which is something quite significant. And then they have several spaces throughout South Africa. I think they're on 6 or 7 now. And Paarl is one of them. They started in Johannesburg. Paarl has got one. And I also just want to chat to him on where are the next spaces going to turn up, and what the culture is from a co-working space perspective. So if I just give you Workshop17 here in Paarl, which is at the Buckeyes. For those of you that don't know, in southern Paarl, just opposite the station. So they also have a co-working space here. There's about 75 companies that are in the space. But I'm going to ask Paarl just to explain a bit more about what the Buckeyes is all about. So Paarl, of course, also entrepreneur, started his own consultancy. And I just also want to find out, why does someone leave school and want to start the entrepreneur world and not go straight into a business? A lot of parents frown on you when you say you want to start your own business at a very young age. So I want to chat to him a bit about that. So Mr. Keursten, I'm lucky.
Thank you. I'm good. It's great to be here.
Yes.
And to talk to you.
Yeah, would you say this is one of your 7 homes in Paarl?
It's my home in Paarl. It's one of the 6 homes that we have at the moment.
Yeah.
And I can tell you in confidence, it's my favorite one.
Oh, okay. Why?
Don't tell anyone else of the other communities. But I think this space, it's the only one at the moment that we have that's not in the city. But it had something special from the beginning, and I think we met, a few of you met early beginning, and it had, because of the building that has a very old field building with a modern inside, but it has history, it has meaning, it has community. I think part of why I love coming here is not only the way the building looks and the way it's fitted out, but Paarl from the beginning had a different growth than other spaces. And it was really a community growth. Of people knowing each other, and it was almost organic growth instead of people coming, I need an office with a door inside and I need a good coffee. Let me see where I get the best price. I think there is a community that's built here. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah. I'm intrigued because I think you started in Johannesburg and then you went to, big city. Then you go to Waterfront, big city. And then Paarl, I don't know if it was city then when you decided, it was still a town. How did that come up?
So we started actually in close to Jeppe, if the people who know Johannesburg, in the real inner city of Johannesburg, where a guy called Jonathan Liepman set up Maboneng with a great vision and really creating an inner city and revising an inner city community where people really connect again. And inner city didn't become synonymous for danger.
Yeah.
It's really about life again and connecting and meeting people from various backgrounds. So that's where Mark Zeftel, my co-founder, and I started. And then we moved to the waterfront, which is not your normal step. From Jeppy to the waterfront, we always laughed about it in the end, but you can connect the dots afterwards. The journey that you start as an entrepreneur never unfolds the way you think it will fold. So you also need to go with the flow. What we did in Johannesburg is we put all our own money in. We can talk about co-working as much as we like, but until we do it, no one will believe us. So we need to make sure that we put our money where our mouth is, and also learn how to do this well. And then the waterfront actually came to Johannesburg and said, do you want to create a Workshop 17 at the waterfront?
Oh, nice. Okay.
Would you like to open with us, and would you like to manage it for us? So we designed and managed it at the Watershed building, which was then revamped. And one of our very first members was Dana Buys.
Okay.
With his company, two companies actually, Tall Order and Pageman. And he said, this is actually great. Why don't you come do it in Paarl?
Okay.
It's like, Paarl? Tell me.
Yeah.
And then we came here to this building on Dana's invitation.
Okay.
When we walked in, this was, I don't know who of you watching on here know the building before this, we came in. There was rats running around, and there was, the doves were flying in the building, not outside the building. But I think we believed in Dana's reason to be here, as Paarl being one of the fastest growing municipalities in South Africa for some time already, offering a quality of life that you can't have anywhere else. You can have it, but it's unique, I think.
Yeah.
The nature, but also the school quality and the growth. So that combined made us think there's a story here. Let's step in, and it was a leap of faith, I must say, in the end. And it wasn't an easy journey. Yeah. But we're here.
Yeah. So I mean, before we go into into detail about Workshop 17, of course, some people are wondering, you've got a different accent. So tell us a bit about the background, where you come from, and why you end up in South Africa.
Yeah. So my accent gives me away immediately. I'm Dutch from the Netherlands. So maybe the third or fourth wave of Dutch people coming to South Africa. But I hope we're coming differently than before. My background is actually, I'm a son of two teachers.
Oh wow, okay.
I actually went to school and sat in my mom's class and my dad's class as a student.
Okay.
Which was quite the experience. So teaching has been part of my family history. And I'm telling you that because learning is at the heart of what I believe in.
Okay.
And I think Workshop 17, the way I look at it, is actually a learning environment. I would love everyone that comes to Workshop 17 for meeting or to work here every day, that every time you come, you take something with you when you go. An insight, a connection, a new idea. And that's what learning is about. Learning doesn't really happen in classrooms only.
Yeah.
Actually, mostly happens outside of classrooms. It happens informally.
Yeah.
And being that as a background, I studied education. I got my degree in education. I did a PhD in education. But when I was a student, I thought I can learn from the books, but I actually need to learn by doing things. So I started working for clients that came to the university. My first client came to university and said, well, I want to do a research, and my budget is, I think, 10,000 guilders at that point in time. And the university said, well, we can't really do much for that. And I said, that's double my yearly budget as a student. I'm going to do this. So I started being an entrepreneur not by choosing to be a business, but by choosing to do work. And I did as a student, and after finishing the studies, my first clients came back, and then I thought maybe I need to start a business, which was a consulting business, which still exists. We call it the Learning Company.
Okay.
With the Learning Company, we have about 50 people.
Oh wow, so that's still running?
It's still running.
Oh, nice, okay.
And it's doing anything from coaching to leadership development, organizational change. We do quite a bit in the healthcare sector, but also government, big companies.
Okay.
But then what I'm good at is getting myself into trouble. And basically meaning, and I can advise everyone to get yourself into trouble. Because what they say is learning starts at the end of your comfort zone. So if you're passionate about learning, it's not about teaching others, but also about how do I do it as Paul, myself, how do I develop myself in my life on all aspects. And one way I do it is that every 5-6 years I do something new. I want to start something new. And I felt after being, and I've done it several times, but after being about 25 years as a consultant and a business owner in consulting world, focusing about learning and giving people opportunities to develop, I felt I need to do it for people who can't afford me. It's very easy, not very easy, but it's one thing to fly to a different country for corporate and do an assignment and paid for, or to actually go to a country where no one knows you, South Africa, and engage with people who don't have means, financial means, but have talent, dreams, and aspirations. And actually that's why I came to South Africa.
Okay.
Just engage with that and see, can I do anything? Can I do anything else than what I've done before? And can I have impact to people who can't usually afford a consultant or even an education that costs money?
So you step into South Africa, and I mean, we don't have a business yet, or we have something running in South Africa. So you hear something's running in
the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands.
I had some colleagues here from the consulting business.
Okay.
But I started engaging with people in settlements, in informal settlements.
Oh wow! Okay.
Just walked in and then connected.
Okay, and so then how does Workshop 17 then? How does that brainchild pop up in South Africa?
Well, the second theme that's running to my professional career is entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And from being a professional in education and learning, starting a business, you start to think, actually, I'm an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is not only about creating businesses, but also creating initiatives that then become sustainable. And what I saw is that there's lots of initiatives in townships which are not seen as small businesses, but actually seen as social. And social and economic are often seen as very separate. So we engage with youth groups, we engage with daycares, which is one of the things obviously that everyone knows, where the women who start a daycare are often seen as caretakers.
Yeah.
But we all know when you start a daycare, soon you have 60, 80, 120, 150 kids. You have staff, you need to provide food every day. It's actually running a business. So that's where it started, as supporting them to actually become sustainable and see them as entrepreneurs and not as caretakers.
Wow.
And based on that, we felt what I saw in South Africa, the landscape is quite politicized and it's quite separated.
Okay.
And Mark and I wanted to create an environment where entrepreneurs have good facilities to become the best they can be and to become a success as a business, but also to have impact, and that are neutral spaces that are not owned by a corporate or subsidized by someone, but that is actually everyone's treated the same. So we call it level playing field or neutral spaces.
So you're meaning like the normal small business entrepreneur and a big CEO is both at the coffee machine type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to close those gaps. And we've seen in township how tough it is to actually get online, get airtime, reach into a professional that can help you get your website up or get your registration as a company. And we felt bringing those people together from different backgrounds could actually be a fruitful, a fertile ground for entrepreneurship and innovation. And that is in essence what Workshop 17 wants to be, a fertile ground for entrepreneurship and innovation, to help create jobs, to also create a nice environment for people to be in, and to actually cross borders from professions, young, old, corporate, big, small, and rich and poor.
So, but how do you bump into Mark? I mean, of course you have a part. I'm always like when I see people doing business together and they're in business for very, very long. How do you meet Mark and how do you know he's the partner that you want?
So I'll try to make it short, but as the NGO that I started, we wanted to develop a school, and we had the architect Enrico da Fonchio design the school. And Enrico was also the architect for Maboneng. With Jonathan Liepman. I met Jonathan Liepman, the initiator of Maboneng. And he was looking at shared space and can we create collaborative and shared spaces in the second building that he was doing, and I had small shared space in the Netherlands already. So we started talking, and Jonathan said, you must meet Mark, because he wants to do something like you do for techies.
For techies?
So people in IT and people who need all the tech facilities.
Right, yeah.
And that's how Mark and I met.
Okay.
And then this came from it.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, let's talk about COVID-19, lockdown, co-working spaces. What's happening in that space? Has a big impact? And I mean, also part of that question is also the Workshop17. What is the culture? So the person that's never been in here, what is the culture that you're trying to build or create for the entrepreneur, the business owner?
Yeah. So that's a lot of things in one. Let me see. When we started in 2012, we opened in Maboneng. Then people didn't really know what co-working was, and it was seen like it's a space for startups or people who can't afford their office. And I think at that point in time, I still remember people coming in. I don't know who have seen our Maboneng space. It's 1,000 square meter. It has a putting green in the middle, a 9-hole putting green.
Oh wow!
And people walk in and say, "I don't know what this is. This can't be an office." So we had we wanted the first phase actually to change what an office needs to be. It doesn't need to be a row of little rooms with doors closed, but it needs to be a place where people come together, where there's energy and where there's also some beauty, where you want to be. Then it moved more and more to mainstream, and it got more and more known. And we were building, and fast forward, COVID obviously was a hard stop for us. If you look at March 2020 that happened. And then lockdown happened. So all of a sudden we needed to close our doors. So that is quite something. If you build a business, we had 6 locations open and running, and then you need to close your doors for 2 months. What do you do? So the short term was hectic, was tough. It changed our business model.
Okay, nice.
So we took leases. And if you have a lease, you might need to pay your rental every month. But our members say, well, I can't use your space, but also we are struggling as a business. We can't pay you. So now we had obligations on the one side that didn't budge, and our income dropped. So we need to rethink how we structure our business financially to survive. And I think the principle that we chose is we want to get through this together. So we want all our members to be standing at the end of COVID, but we also as Workshop17 want to survive. Because if we don't survive, then we can't offer you the services, but if we don't have members, we also have no reason to.
Double-edged sword, yeah.
And that is a bit about the culture. It's really about reciprocity. It's about trust. In South Africa, I find, coming from the Netherlands, I found it quite a low trust society, so everyone's talking about protecting your IP. That's opposite to sharing your ideas to make it more. Protecting your connections. If you talk to someone, don't talk to someone else, otherwise I'll lose my commission. All these kind of things. So low trust actually decreases the speed of innovation and development. So we wanted to create an environment of trust, and it also means something for how we operate as Workshop17, which means we want to be transparent. All our prices are on the website. You don't have to call us. There cannot be any surprise at the end of the month for your invoice. It's on the financial level, but also we need to be neutral. We want to welcome everyone. It's not you are my preferred member and I care about you less. Really living what we tell, being that neutral level playing field and being welcoming to everyone. So that is a bit about the culture, and that's what we really, and we also chose to not play like the role of an incubator or the role of providing trainings. We said, well, actually our members do that. We don't want to be competing to our members. We want to actually welcome incubator, accelerators, people who host events, people who organize meetings, people who organize learning activities. That's all value for our members. And if we connect members and that then get a business together which flourishes, we don't have to take a share in that. So we only charge for the space. and we charge everyone the same rate.
Yeah.
And if that then creates new opportunities for the business, that's really the reason why we do it, and we're just happy for that to happen. So we're not. I also felt like many of the spaces and programs that are there in South Africa, and there's a lot of that. Often the participants feel like they're partly owned or owing to the person who organizes it, and that takes away that feeling of emancipation, of being the master of your own destiny. And I think that's what entrepreneurs need. You need to feel in charge of what you do, the struggles and the benefits. And we just want to be there throughout the journey.
So I mean, how do you manage then if you have corporates and you have a corporate big company and you have a small entrepreneur? Of course, how do you manage, because they of course have different needs and they also have different wants. So I mean, how do you manage that? Because that must be difficult, I would think.
But they're all humans.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I think in that sense it's the same. And corporates like to come here because it is what it is.
Yeah.
They love something different than they're always used to. So it's the reason why we do events and we host meetings and we invite excos of corporate to have their strategy meetings in a place like ours. And they enjoyed it because something else is happening than in their corporate office. So it is, and this morning we had a workshop together with Dion Chang about the impact of COVID.
Oh, nice.
And one thing that COVID did is actually it humanizes business again.
Okay.
It brings it closer, and I don't know if people recognize that. It's about bringing life and work closer together. We separated that. So living and working, we speak about life-work balance, which is a very weird concept. It's like you work and then outside of work there's life. And I think what life should also happen while you work. There should be fun, there should be joy, there should be meaning. But we separate it also physically. There's business centers, you drive to there, you sit in traffic for an hour. And one thing that Mark and I said to him, it's actually a crime to have people go in traffic for 1.5 hours from Paarl to Cape Town to be in an office that they don't like to be in, or to not meet anyone that they like to meet, or not have any meaningful encounters. So I think what COVID does is bringing work and life closer together, but also learning how to manage that. And people don't want to sit in traffic anymore. They also want to go to a workplace where they have a meaningful encounter, because sitting at a desk and doing some work on your own, you can do anywhere. You don't have to go to your office for that. And I think COVID, in that sense, was the biggest remote work experiment that ever happened, which changed lots of conceptions about what a workplace should be, how work and life should be, that we need to work from 9 to 5. And you see now, if you see it in this space in Wakhuis, the rhythm of people during the day changes. We're sitting now in the evening. Some people come in the morning in after they drop their kids at school. They take their kids from school, go home and work the rest of the day at home. So there's more freedom for people to actually organize their life and work in a way that suits them. But I think our spaces in that sense, so COVID was a curse in the beginning. I think it's a blessing for now, because it helped us to become more known, but also more seen as a normal solution. What we do now is become part of the new normal, instead of part of a small niche that it was 5 years ago.
So you're seeing an increase in interest in the co-working space environment. So just, I mean, you are in that space. I'm just intrigued. Of course, you do a lot of research. For working from home and working in the corporate office, has there been a productivity for company? I don't know if you can figure that out from ratings, but generally is through this COVID period lockdown, work companies, do they figure out that employees are more productive at home or in the corporate space?
So actually in the beginning, especially in the first months, productivity went up. So all the distractions from the offices fell away. Most managers, especially the micromanagers and us, felt like, if I can't control this, people will do nothing. Actually, it's the opposite.
Wow, okay.
Most people are adults, and most people want to perform. So getting rid of the distractions from the office and you found actually the other thing, that people were working too long. And people are getting burned out because there was no bordering anymore. So productivity went up, but then you see the cracks over time that synergies go down, but also people lack the stimulation.
Okay.
So if you work from home, you can work concentrated. You can have a meeting on a Zoom, on a Skype, or whatever tool you use.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as being in the same room. And that's the human part again. So people miss that human connection. Also miss that different experience, and miss a conversation with someone that you can't have at home. So at home, if you might love your partner, but at some point you want to also have another conversation. And not talk about who's doing the homeschooling this afternoon. Or are you cooking? I'm cooking. What shall we eat? But a conversation that gives you something new and that you can bring home to talk about again. So that stimulation of human interaction and energy that I hope our places offer, a little bit of energy that stimulates you. Also the other things, one of our members said, what helps me to come here is that I see other ones sometimes having success, and being an entrepreneur is not always easy. You go through ups and downs. And if I meet someone who just got a deal, it stimulates me because I think that I can do it. Let me go through this. I can still manage. So there is a kind of emotional support that you get, sometimes even from being in the space with others that are also working and sharing a down or sharing an up or meeting each other halfway. I think that is part of what we don't have when you work from home. And then the other part is the sense of belonging. And again, human nature is you want to belong somewhere. That's why at Workshop17 we don't say you come rent something from us. We say you become a member and you join. You join a community, and I spoke about the Paarl community earlier. I think that is what makes people come in. A good coffee is nice, but you can have a good coffee anywhere. But if you come in, you feel part of something that stimulates you. That's the reason to go to an office. And that is different from sitting at a desk in somewhere at the third floor of the passage.
100%. I can speak out of experience, like the value. I've been sitting here for 2 years now, and the value for me is you are doing your own thing, and you can go do it at home in your room or in your study. But I think the value I get is you've got access to so many different professionals in different spheres. So if you need a website, you can go to someone that's sitting around the corner, and they'll say, okay, but let me do the website for you. And they'll say, okay, but what do you do? And I say, okay, maybe I do digital marketing. Okay, why don't you do my digital marketing? And I think for me, that's like the experience, but also you bump into people that you don't ever think you'd bump into. So I think from working in this type of space with different people, because in the office environment, you're going to speak to your peers and your employees, and you're all doing the same type of work But here it's more like variety, total variety.
That's great to hear, and I think that's what we aim for. And I think after COVID, we'll see more of this kind of what they call third spaces, which is not your home and not your corporate office. And what I see in corporates, and we're speaking to some of them, they're actually scaling down their regional offices.
Wow, okay.
They are wondering, do we need a big corporate office? Do we actually, and companies of 50 people, they're even wondering, do I need an office? Do I want to bother with cleaning? Do I want to bother with HVAC? Or must I actually run my business and want someone else to do that? Plus we have 50 people, but there might be 20 in the office one day, 10 another day. So we actually don't need an office for 50 people anymore. And the last element, we call it semigration, but even if you think about remote work as being part of normal, you also can attract talent that's not living close to the office, but that's living, if you're a company in Paarl, you can have a colleague in Durban. But if you then add something like a Workshop17, you come to a workspace where there's co-workers who are not your direct colleague from your company, but still give you that feeling of I have a colleague here.
100%. And I mean, every morning you come past, you greet each other like you're actually colleagues, but you run your own space. Just lastly, also just on the co-working space. So last month, of course, there was this in South Africa we had mental health awareness thing, and I mean, of course, you've been in that past year, of course, conversations about co-working space. Do you think people working from home, there has been an impact more in that regard on mental health of employees at home, and because they're used to having people around them?
I think that is one thing. I really do think there's an impact on mental, and there's research that shows it.
Okay.
There's been an increase in burnout, and I think most people will have the experience that with the online meetings, there's no gap between the meetings. So many people complain about I don't find time even to go to the toilet or get a cup of coffee because there's no movement time from a meeting room to another meeting room or from the one office to another office. So there's no reflection time. It's like back to back. And that's also draining people. And then people, when they at home, tend to care less about what they eat, movement, and being healthy. And I think those three concerns, the work taking over the home space and struggling how to separate the different things and be with the family and not always think, oh, there's a mail, I need to quickly look at that. Those are elements that are being researched, but they're also concerning. And in the workshop that I spoke about with Dion Cheng, we had also people of HR departments of companies are looking into what is our role, how do we support mental health and physical health from people in this hybrid workspace, because we don't see them every day. And there is downfalls at the home office, depending on your nature. But
I wanted to ask you something lastly about the mental health, but I'll get to it. So, where do you see co-working space in the future? I mean, if you're looking at 10 years, 5 years in South Africa specifically.
Look, I think it's only at the start of the journey.
All right.
It's beginning. So if you look at even international predictions, they say 20 to 30% of workspace could be flexible and co-working workspace.
Okay, nice.
I think in South Africa we're not even at 2%.
Okay.
And we're not the only players, so there will be more and more players, and there needs to be variety. We're not the solution for everyone.
Yeah.
And I do think office as a service is replacing office as an asset. People have also found that the office building value with the oversupply of office goes down. If you have a building that's an asset, but then it's empty, it becomes a liability.
Yeah.
So there is, I think, a big change in that element. I do see a conversion between leisure and office.
Okay.
It's the workation that we speak about from. But if you go to, we're actually opening in Mauritius next year, 2 locations.
Nice.
Which is interesting. If you see that Mauritius has a permit for people to come to work there for a year, quite easy to get.
Okay.
But if you can only work for international companies or international clients, so you don't take work away from
the locals.
From the locals.
Yeah.
But with remote work, people can work anywhere. If you see, there's a bank in London who stimulates all the workers to work 2 months a year abroad.
Wow.
Because they wanting to change the world of banking, so they need innovation, and they want actually their staff to have different experiences, because they will bring that back and it will stimulate innovation. So we're seeing quite a lot of change in HR policy, but also in the way to look at office more as a service. And I think for that, the office work is not a place to go anymore, it's something that you do. And you can do it from lots of places.
Yeah, 100%.
So place actually becomes very much unimportant in that sense.
Yeah.
In the industrial age, you need to be close to where the machines were. Or pre-internet, you need to be close to each other for communication. Now you actually can choose where you want to live and work from there. And work becomes a connection of spaces. So even in Workshop17, we're not opening in London or in New York, because I don't think that will help. But if you're in Paarl and you need to be in Cape Town, or you need to go to Newlands, which is another place that we will open next year, that you have places everywhere you go close to tap into, is really what I think is the new workplace.
Okay.
So we're aiming to have a Workshop17 within half an hour of the major nodes in South Africa.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yep.
The other question I wanted to ask you was, have you noticed that, or is there a change in big corporates in South Africa, the way they're thinking and how they're changing the culture because of lockdown? Has there been a thinking, because of course it was always rigid and structured and this is how the hierarchy works. Has things changed over time?
I think it's about to.
All right.
It's starting to change. So the major corporates, if I look at Santon, where we also are,
Yeah.
all the corporates around us are still having their people at home.
Okay.
So they're still figuring out what to do. So it started, like I said earlier, it started to look at the regional offices. Do we
Okay.
still need them? One of the corporates approached us, can you take over our regional office and then we become a member and we open it up to other people?
Yeah.
But that's the first. But I think they also need to reconsider the corporate office, as there will be a different reason to come into the office. But also people, and in the US, they call it the Great Resignation. So people, when they are forced to go back to work, to their office, say, I don't want to, I resign.
Oh,
So
wow.
people see talent moving out and actually saying, well, I'm not coming. So offices will need to really look at, or corporates will need to look at how do we retain talent and what does talent need. And it's a complete new world out
Yeah,
there.
and I'm sure the talent is going to be scouting around for offices or businesses that are more flexible, work remotely.
Yeah. The freedom.
Freedom,
People,
yeah.
The freedom to live their life, the freedom to give their kids a good school. Or
Yeah.
it decides work needs to go where the people want to live instead of people need to live where the work is.
Yeah. Okay, so if we move to the entrepreneur of Paarl, so give us your favorite failure. So something that went very wrong in your journey of entrepreneurship, and what were the lessons from it?
Sure.
Oh, there's so many.
A lot. So I often say to Paul, you're now 57. Do you really need to do this still?
Oh, again. Yeah.
So you learn, and actually you try to make the mistakes more clever. So one thing that I became very humble is about judging people or judging people.
Okay.
When you're young and you're after your first 5 years saying, now I figured it out.
Yeah.
You haven't. I think the biggest pitfall, the biggest mistakes I made when I thought I knew it. And I learned that curiosity is much more important than having all the answers as an entrepreneur. So I do believe, and I know if the entrepreneurs are listening, I think curiosity is what gets an entrepreneur going and keeps it going. And if you know it, you stop. So if you know the answer, why continue? So it also links back to the failures. If you can't make any failure anymore, you're just repeating yourself.
Yeah.
There's no point.
Yeah.
So that answers your.
Yeah, but more like a practical example in your the decision that you made, and you say, okay, but this is like I've learned my most lessons from it.
The most lessons, sure. Well, maybe the more recent one is the lesson I've had to learn in COVID, because it was really touch and go. So the way we structured it was actually going to be a dead end. So if you look at May last year, May 2020, I could see it in front of me. If we don't change now radically, it's going to be 50 people losing their job and I'm losing my business.
Yeah.
And then you look at what are the mistakes I made in structuring the business, and then if I look at it as actually you're structuring a business in an upgoing market, and you think it will continue going up, and actually COVID hit and it went down. So not anticipating that it's actually extrapolating what is happening for years is actually the biggest mistake I made. Yeah.
What is the worst advice given to entrepreneurs nowadays on the social medias and motivational speakers?
That it's about money. Money is a hygiene factor and it's not a purpose. So there's so much about.
What do you say? Money is a hygiene factor.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I think, and I forgot who told it. Said it's like oxygen. Money is like oxygen. You need oxygen to live, but the purpose of living is not to breathe. So breathing is like profit for a company is your oxygen. You can grow with it, you can sustain yourself, but it's not the purpose of a company. And if that drives you, and I see a lot of that, you need to have sound financials, otherwise you end up having no breath. But it can't be the purpose of what you do. And I think, and I hope that we, in this time, and even after COVID, we're starting to rethink is, what is the contribution I'm making? What is the difference I'm making? Not to my purse only, but to
society,
to my colleagues, to my staff, to the people we serve. What is the meaning? And without meaning, it becomes just empty, no matter how much money you get.
Give me a pinch myself moment in Paul's life, like, wow, Paul, this is really a good one, not one of the 100 failures, like a good pinch myself moment, like, wow, Paul, this is really happening.
See, that was actually, I go back to opening the waterfront. So imagine being in grungy inner city Joburg, and then opening the waterfront, which has just the most known location. So I didn't know, but the waterfront gets the most visitors before COVID, the most visitors per year in Africa.
Wow.
More than the pyramids, 25 million. It says something about the humans that, like a commercial center like the waterfront is the most visited tourist location. But 25 million to be able to open a workspace in the watershed, which was a beautiful building, but it's almost like a street. So it's also the most public workspace you can imagine. I don't know if you've seen it. It's that glass box, and people walk by from all countries in the world and just stand in front of the glass and look in. So our team has to be used to taking pictures of them. But to open there at such a public location coming from where that was like, okay, we couldn't have thought this to do.
Biggest lessons with Workshop 17?
Biggest lesson is, let me see. We take a lot of pride and effort in our design, and I learned that design mustn't be perfect, because then you feel living in a magazine. So one of the lessons I learned when we opened in the waterfront, how you thought it through, and then people start moving chairs around. I said, but the chairs belongs. And then I said, Paul, catch yourself. People feeling at home. Because you only move a chair around when you feel at home. Not when you feel like this is someone else's chair.
Exactly.
You only open the fridge when you feel at home. So I actually thought, okay, no. Paul, step back. People are making it theirs, and that's actually the purpose. It's not my space. It is the space of the people who use it. If you had a billboard up on our main road, I mean let's call it the N1, and your photo is there, and there's a bubble up, what would you be what would you be telling the world? Don't look at me. Have a beautiful day.
Okay, all right. I think a lot of people need that.
And I think beauty is underestimated. So in business we think about effectiveness, efficiency. But beauty is what gives meaning. So beauty is not only a piece of art, but if someone anyone professional, if I worked with engineers, and they said, Paul, you must listen to the machine. And I said, I don't hear anything. See, that's beautiful. So beauty is actually a word for excellence. And I wish everyone that.
Okay. What would you tell your 25-year-old self? Now that you know what you know now.
Follow your dreams, and just stay curious, basically.
You're touching on the word, like curiosity is like a theme in this conversation. Is that like something that's always like the two words that popping up is curiosity and innovation, that in our chat now, is that something that's always in the mind?
So curiosity is, remember my background is learning. And curiosity is the fuel of learning. Without curiosity, there's no learning. And I think in schools we actually forget to stimulate curiosity. Kids are very curious. They ask hundreds of questions. And then somewhere in primary, towards the end of primary school, that stops. And I think we're committing a crime there. So curiosity is really what keeps development going. curiosity is also what keeps people humble and away from being arrogant.
Yeah.
So there's nothing more off-putting than someone who knows everything. But you stop conversation.
Yeah, of course.
So so that is basically
Yeah.
curiosity. It's also the fuel of innovation.
Yeah.
So innovation is basically also a learning process. You're finding something new that you didn't know before.
Yeah, and it comes from curiosity.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it.
What have you changed your mind about entrepreneurship in the last 3-4 years?
I'm not sure if I changed my mind actually. In that ways, I've always been stubborn. I think I've always felt like entrepreneurship is not what the books make you believe to be.
Yeah.
And it's as a consultant at some point had the opportunity to interview entrepreneurs about what they do and what was successful entrepreneurs don't stop when they have enough money. So that's when I changed my mind. So it's not money that drives them, because they can't stop being entrepreneurial. They just can't stop.
Yeah.
Because they have that curiosity to create something, find something out, or do something that they can't help themselves.
Yeah. 100%. If you had a seat at the table with with a entrepreneur, what question would you ask it, and who would that entrepreneur be?
Never thought of that. What question would I ask? The first name comes to mind is Elon Musk, because I want to understand him more.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find him absolutely brilliant, and sometimes I find him absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And say, why do you even say this? Why do you even do this? And but hugely success. So there must be something. He's hugely successful financially, but he's also creating solutions that people thought were not possible.
Yeah.
And that's what intrigues me. I think
Yeah.
doing something that you think is not possible is actually amazing.
Yeah. Give us your morning routine. I always say entrepreneurs have a morning routine. And is it the same every day, Monday to Sunday, or does it change?
Well, it's almost the same every day, and
Okay.
it actually starts with getting up,
Okay.
going for a run,
What time are we waking up?
6 o'clock.
Okay, cool. And how far are we running?
About 5Ks.
All right, cool.
So not far, but every day, 2 days I go to gym,
Okay.
personal training, and I do boxing.
Okay.
I can't hit someone if my life depended on it. But it's a great training to do.
Yeah.
And I find myself being ridiculous because I have this trainer who's like a chiseled, strong fighter.
Yeah.
And then when I don't do the right touch and I hit him, he probably doesn't feel anything, and I say sorry. But it's doing some. But that gives me the run actually has two functions. It just keeps me healthy physically, but also emotionally. So it's organized. It's my meditation.
All right.
I don't run far and I don't run too fast, but I run, and it actually clears my head, it clears my mind, it gives me energy for the day.
What is something you believe now that others think is insane?
That life is about beauty,
Okay.
and others think I'm a dreamer.
Okay.
And I get a comment quite often, Paul, you're an idealist, and I don't think, I wouldn't want to be anything else.
Yeah.
What is it without ideals? What's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, you've got a lot of business owners or entrepreneurs in front of you, and you must tell them why they must come to Workshop 17, and why would you want to be part of this culture?
I think come to have a beautiful day. Come back to that. Come to have a beautiful day. Decide for yourself if you want to come back. And we are, actually our purpose is to be the platform that you can be what you want to become.
Yeah.
And we take the hassle so you can do what you need to do. And I think it's the opposite, and that opened my mind with one of our members in the Watershed building like 5 years ago. And everyone's thought open space is actually distracting. And I was thinking about, because there's lots of buzz, people say you can't concentrate, the
Yeah.
open office is dead.
Yeah.
And he came in and he said, Paul, thank you, because I can concentrate here. I said, oh, it's opposite to what research is starting to say. I said, Aaron, what do you mean you can concentrate? Because there's lots going on and it's busy. He said, because I can focus on what I come here to do because you take care of everything else.
Yeah.
So if you want that, you must come.
Yeah. And I mean, in the South African space, you probably have generators at every location?
I think 4 of the 6 have solar.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And we have generators where one of our spaces has a gas plant to generate electricity, because I do think we need to really look at our environmental impacts that we have. So yes, we need to have that backup power.
Yeah.
There's a generator here. We had some issues sometimes, as you know, but hopefully we've passed that.
Yeah.
That's done now. Yeah.
Okay, and then just lastly, so just give me the Holland space entrepreneur and the South African space entrepreneur. What's the difference in, like, what the entrepreneur society and entrepreneur society in South Africa? What's the difference? Is there a difference in entrepreneurship?
I think so. I think the main difference, South Africa is much less comfortable than Holland. So in the Netherlands, you don't have the issues that South Africa has. It's all well organized. The trains run. You don't have to have a car to go around. There's no load shedding. But it also gives a sense of comfort. South Africa, you have to deal with a lot.
Yeah.
And it actually changes the energy that people have. And I like that. I think in some ways, if I went back to the Netherlands, I thought, geez, I'm missing that energy, because there's something that you can pretend everything is okay when there's comfort.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not. Not everything is okay in the Netherlands. In South Africa, you can't pretend. It's in your face and it's happening. You deal with it, but it also excites. It also gives opportunities. It is more real and there's more energy.
Yeah, and it's just, I think people are making it happen under a lot of different projectiles coming at you.
That's inspirational.
Yeah.
And really inspirational. And the issues you deal with are different. And especially in COVID, we said, if you can't pay us, talk to us.
Yeah.
So we had lots of conversations about what people are going through, and that's just so meaningful.
Yeah.
But in the Netherlands, there is lots of packages that people can fall back on. Here you don't have.
What do you mean packages?
Like support from the government.
Oh, okay, all right. Financial support,
Financial support or any. And here you didn't, so you had to figure it out together, which is not easy. Sometimes you wish there was something you fall back on, but it's also connecting you in a different way.
Yeah, it makes you probably stronger as well.
I think so.
Paul, thanks so much.
A pleasure.
I always say I appreciate entrepreneur time. They're always so busy. I know you were in Joburg this afternoon and took some space for Paul, but I mean, who needs a reason to come to Paul?
There should be no conviction going. It's self-evident. People should come.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if there are questions from me in the atelier, which is the audience. So yeah, if there's a question.
I just want to make a remark about something. I'm Dirk Breitenbach, chairperson of the local business chamber.
Yes.
A lot of what you've said is very interesting and works alongside what we're standing for. Our main vision is networking, to build successful networks, that's all. And if I listen at your setup here, we can actually fit in here very nicely. If we can just get our funding model.
Look, that's the hygiene factor that we need to all, and it's not always easy, especially if it's on networking, and because it's not the tangible things, it's not linear. It's not transactional, it's relational, it's long-term, and it needs that long-term view to look at it, but it's not always easy then to deal with the short-term needs.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're working towards. We're also working with business chambers in Europe, the big ones, UNISO in Belgium, the New York, Greater New York Chamber, and we've got the same missions and visions as them. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
it's one of those professions in the world, maybe, to be in a business chamber. But yeah, I enjoyed your talk very much, and it's very stimulating and learning.
Thank you very much.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, so it's only attention. Can we hear the people in the audience? I must say, can you hear? All right, perfect.
Paul, thank you very much. My name is Johan Rauder. I live in Wellington. I live in the better part of the world.
Not sure if you want to open that discussion. I'll stay neutral.
First of all, you mentioned database right in the beginning.
Yes.
And it is amazing as you went through the beginning, the amount of places where our lives and our interests really connect. I practically grew up on freedom lists and stuff in Somalia with Dana's and their own. My aunt used to live there for many years. So I came on that farm in the early 50s, I think, up to the late 60s. We still belonged to the Benedict family. And I don't know last year we were there.
Last year?
Yeah, but when you look at the main entrance to the old house, there's NB on top of the northern middle. This is a land restored in the 50s, but in any case, you did mention that you are also looking at co-creating and managing spaces. Does that mean you don't want to be full owner, you will in actually have a partnership with somebody? Because this is really comes into the picture.
Look, we are actually partnering in any space. Like here we're partnering with Dana. So we've moved from traditional leases to what you call management agreements, the same way that a hotel operates. Because you actually work together. It's a joint interest to activate the building in a way that makes financial sense, but it also makes the building actually a better building. Improves it.
Usable space.
And that's one of the kind of partnerships. The other one is integrating different functions. So a newer space in Rosebank is actually a combination of a restaurant downstairs, a Workshop17 and a hotel. And we are the business center of the hotel. So the hotel doesn't have meeting rooms. We have the meeting rooms. Hotel guests can use our work cafes. So it's integrating stay and working, and then food coming from there. So really working together as one. It's not a building that has a restaurant there and a hotel there and they all do their own thing. It's really and there will be more of that coming, I think, in terms of leisure. There's something to do, workation. So the lines are blurring. We have at the waterfront quite a few international people who stay at the waterfront, so we're partnering with the waterfront to offer stay and work locations. Yep. Yeah. And we'll see where the journey takes us.
Now, because why I'm asking, there's a very interesting building in Wellington, very historic building, and there are serious talks at the moment, which I'm a small part of, in thinking of how can we regenerate this building. And there's a lot of potential, I think, for Wellington and for the environment. And the building is there, and it's really something. Very well located.
Good.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Which I like what you mentioned.
To look at that, yeah.
So yes, that is interesting. And then you mentioned ECDs, early childhood development, which is also, I have a young friend that is very involved in it. And they in actual fact involved with 150 ECDs, as we call in the valley, which is now more or less Stellenbosch, Paarl, Wellington area. And I always think that there's a huge amount of opportunity for people like myself and them to get together, because there's also one of the major banks that is now on board with them. So maybe we can have you talking to them sometime with your thinking and your connections, your part of the roots. Yes, thank you very much. It's been most enlightening to come here. I was very late this afternoon and I didn't think I'd make it, but I'm so glad I did.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your remarks. Happy to talk about it.
By the way, you did mention the difference between European, the Netherlands and South Africa. My wife and myself, we've been having students from Belgium, from Antwerpen, Karel de Grote Hogeschool, for the last 16 years. We get two again in January. We've had about 58 students in the years. And the very first discussion we have every year when they arrive is So I tell them this is a land of contrasts, absolute contrasts. But we are in this amazing space that we know our problems. We were born in Australia, and I think the average European does not actually know their problem, their fellow inhabitants of this world that we call beautiful. And I experience it with my friends in Netherlands and Belgium and in France. I do experience it. They aren't actually aware of what is approaching and how to handle it.
And it's I think a worthwhile experience for students that you bring here to have this confrontation with a different world that you think is far away, but it's not. It's not.
I also have a young friend, also a PhD engineer, and he's got this dream about an African MIT, which we're also sort of getting into motion now. And I would really like when Dan and Paarl again, if I can introduce you, because you are on the same level as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, thinking about the future and all those wonderful things. I'm too old to even imagine these things. Excuse the shit that comes out. But it's really, it's nice to have a talk to a youngster like this guy and yourself. I think there's a lot of commonality as well, and he's just down the road.
Thank you for calling me youngster.
Just looking at myself.
Francis, anything new?
Yes, I would like to say something. I'm Francis Niveau of the Business Chamber. There's only two things when you start a business, which what you must have in life. That's a good product, and that's energy. And I can see that in you, Paul. You've got the energy, you've got the dream, and that's wonderful. Because you're not a loser, you're a fighter. And that is a beautiful energy. And it's not easy. Business is not easy at all. But when you fight it out, when you go through it, and you see how it was worth a while. It's not about money. It's about satisfaction. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think Francis was my next guest for Motivational Monday, yeah. Paul, yeah, thanks so much. It was really, yeah, like they said, insightful. I really found it valuable. I'm sure a lot of people as well. Yeah, thanks so much for your time and all the best. What are we doing for the next 3 months? Are we going on holiday or are we staying at home?
No, I'm not going on holiday. There's lots of work to do. Okay. I don't think we'll slow down as quickly as usual, but and I feel it everywhere that people are going to go into December still working, but I'm going to see my mom and my son in December in the Netherlands.
Are you going? Okay, nice. All right. Let's see if we don't lock you down here that you can't leave.
We'll go anyway. Family is important, you know?
Yeah. Okay, cool. But thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Miles.